All right, hello. Thanks for the intro. So my name is Monica. I'm a product manager at Webflow, and I'm super excited to be chatting with you guys and giving you a sneak peek on what we've built here at Webflow in the e-commerce space. It was really great actually chatting with a couple of you guys beforehand, just figuring out what you guys are using to build with Webflow and seeing the possibility of bringing e-commerce into what you imagine on building. And I think we're actually onto something really big here. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I named this talk kind of understanding what's going on in the general space of e-commerce. And you know, Amazon is one of those formidable players in the space. And it's more on how do you thrive? How are you successful when something is as big as Amazon that's competing in the same space as you? And so we'll go through three big things. We'll talk about what the landscape looks like, what does competition look like. We understand that e-commerce is actually a really difficult space to be in. We'll take a look at two case studies of successful companies that have done well, and they've done so by focusing on two very important key pieces in building out their businesses. And then we'll talk about a little bit on how Webflow has made a lot of our decisions on empowering you to make sure that you can actually continually create and evolve and be very, very successful with creating an e-commerce business for yourself. So usually these talks start off with some kind of statistic or some kind of graph. I made a very generic one, and the trend goes upwards. As you can tell, and as we can all perceive, that e-commerce is actually gaining in market share. Right now, it comprises about 13 or more, depends on the market, % of retail sales. This was about like 5 or 6% in 2007. And so a lot of this, you know, we can all tell that e-commerce is becoming more and more important in our daily lives. We've even changed the way that we expect things to be purchased online. We have expectations for finding the lowest price, for having the greatest amount of selection available. And then we also now have new standards on how quickly we can get those products into our hands. And there's been no other company that has capitalized on these needs than Amazon. And so there's a shocking statistic that 49% of all product searches actually start on Amazon. That's actually outpacing other types of search engines like Google. And so you can see here, I think I searched for a notebook, and I have around 200,000 results for that one notebook. And if you're selling things like a planner or a journal and you're selling on a platform like Amazon, it's really difficult for you to differentiate because, as you imagine, you're showing the first out of 16 results in the first page. And so it's really difficult for you to stand out, for customers to trust you and to continually choose you over their competition. To add to this, there are a lot of platforms out there that have reduced the barrier to you creating a store. A lot of platforms give you the ability to just set up a store using a template. And because of this, there's been a massive influx of store merchants, people creating stores. It's never been easier to create one and to start selling things online. And so right now there's about 600,000 active online merchants. And so that combination of knowing that you're working with and against Amazon as well as other merchants makes it really, really tough for you to compete in this space. And so one of the things, I would say one of the most important things for you to be able to be successful in this space is to focus on your brand. And this isn't necessarily one of those like how-to e-commerce talks, and we're going to go into what a brand is and dig into those details. But I just wanted to stress that a brand is more than just a logo or any type of photography that you use on your site. A brand is something that your customers will remember you for. It's a reason why they continually choose you to come back to when they have all these other options available to them. It's an opportunity for you to attract the right types of customers for your business. You can think of your brand as this magnet that makes sure that the right customers are coming to you and choosing you. And I think a really big part of your brand is the values of your company as well as your products. So appealing to them at an emotional level is really important, and you can connect with them in many different ways. And so having this brand, this ephemeral thing that nobody can really put their finger on what it needs a good delivery mechanism. And that's usually done through a bunch of different touch points throughout the customer journey. And the customer journey has a lot of different parts, and your website is actually just a small part of that. When you're selling physical products in this sense, you have to be thinking about all these touch points of packaging, your return policy, because that actually changes the way that people perceive you as a company and as a business. The way that you target them with relevant content, the way you really make sure that they understand you as a business. And so the best way of taking all these different customer touch points and tying them together is through using your brand and weaving that in to your customer experience. And I think that this combination of your brand, knowing about all these different touch points and weaving those in a very seamless and consistent way is one of the key differentiators for you to stick out and to have customers choose you time and time again. And so we'll take a look at 2 successful brands that have done this really well. And then we're going to focus on 2, or at least 1 key part of their journey in which they are able to tie in their brand into that part of the customer journey. And the first case is Allbirds. I have a feeling that it was just released here in the UK, but I'm not sure are you guys familiar with the brand? Not yet. So this is a shoe brand, and they're a little bit special because they make shoes that are entirely made out of wool. But that's not the thing that sets them apart, the fact that they make wool shoes. What they have done is that they have focused their entire branding, their entire value proposition on being sustainability focused. And so they really focus on making sure that the resources that they use to source their shoes, the way that they actually make shoes, changes the way that things are done right now. And so they do that in a consistent way by using things like playful illustrations throughout their website. And then they have all these photos of images that evoke lightness. They kind of make you want to float when you're wearing those shoes. And one key part of the customer journey in which they're able to represent who they are really well is their product page. And it's much longer than this. I kind of just took out a few tidbits on it. But what they've done is that they've described why sustainability is important for the product. And they've actually taken the shoe, they've broken it down piece by piece, and they've shown why each layer matters and why you should care about that. And so they didn't take a typical template of a cookie cutter template of what a product page should look like. They continued down. The product page is actually pretty extensive. It's pretty educational. It's pretty long. But by the end, you have a good understanding of why sustainability is important to this company and why you should care and how you can be a part of that. The next case study we're looking at is this company called Glossier. I'd imagine not too many people in this room are familiar, but hopefully this is a good case study of how a beauty brand has actually been able to evolve their company beyond the products themselves, but really create a community around their values and who they are. So everybody that really buys from Glossier really feels that they're participating in a community, and that they're all kind of interacting with each other. They've given places within their websites dedicated to sharing tidbits on how to apply the makeup. Actually, it's more like skincare-based routines, and just being able to share that with each other. And some of the things that they use throughout their branding are these fun, iconic stickers. They actually send you the physical stickers when you buy their products. And a really key thing that you leave with when using this website or actually completely buying is you feel a sense of empowerment, that beauty is beyond anything that's surface level. And so one key part that Glossier really takes advantage of their branding and weaving that in is at the checkout. And so you can see here that it looks a little bit different than other types of platforms where they kind of give you a cookie cutter step-by-step process. They've broken it down. They've instilled their colors, their branding. You can't see this, but as you transition into each step here, they have all these like cutesy little animations that really show that they're leading you all the way through the journey of buying, so they don't like drop you off at the checkout. And this is a really big part because, as you all know, that 7 out of 10 of all shopping carts are abandoned. And so they're really trying to make sure that they're leading you through their experience so that you're able to come to that end result of leaving empowered with their brand new products. And so that's the second case study. And like I said, checkout is one of the biggest pieces, I would say, in an e-commerce journey. And so what do we do with these two case studies? It sounds like we were talking about stickers and illustrations, and those are fun, and you should just stick them all over your website, and it should sell like hotcakes. The fact of the matter is that, surprise, whatever works for one brand will not work for you. Whatever you're selling is very special to who you are, and you have to make sure that your branding acts like a magnet to attract the right types of customers to you. And applying and taking tidbits of other branding and kind of mashing it together and treating it as your own is not necessarily the best approach. And so what's really important for you to do is to ensure that the platform that you're using allows you to consistently evolve and iterate on those ideas. It's really important for you to be listening to your customers and actually changing how you talk to customers, keeping the conversations active and engaged. And so one of the key ways that we thought about building this at Webflow is how can you quickly come to iterate on different pieces of that customer journey? And we decided to actually open up all these different touch points within that customer journey. You should be able to apply the same principles of creating a totally custom landing page as you're able to do so at the checkout or in the cart. You should tailor that entire experience to however you would imagine your customers would enjoy that whole process. And so checkout is a really, really big piece that we spent a lot of time and thought thinking through, because it is that one place where a lot of customers drop off. And you should be able to have the full control of being able to lead people into completing that transaction. And so here is a sneak peek of, this is the beta here. There's a beta flag to it. And I'm currently on the checkout page. And this is kind of the basic version of it. But you're able to take, using the same principles of full customized design, you're able to take that checkout page and tweak it to exactly how you would imagine your customers to respond to it best. And so, we've applied the same principles of, design first into how we've built the e-commerce solution for Webflow. But it turns out that, there's a lot of great side benefits that come with this. The top 4 is obviously because you're able to iterate really quickly on your brand, you can actually evolve it and make sure that you're targeting the right customers to your store. Obviously, in the same way that you're able to spin up pages, you can spin up new stories or promotions that are relevant. And you can actually do that within minutes instead of days or weeks. There's no handing off process. Another thing is you can stay seasonal, so you don't have to, set your website and forget it. You can make sure that it evolves, it changes based on the seasons, and people really know that you're active, that you're involved. And I think my favorite piece is it actually lowers your operating expenses. Typically, an e-commerce site is easy to set up, but it's difficult to maintain, especially if you're still looking to figure out who your customers are. You're still evolving as a brand. You're still evolving as a business. And you probably have more than a couple developers on board. Especially, I talked to a couple of people here where they're working at a startup and they're building hardware. And it's really important to make sure that you have the engineers actually focusing on the startup product itself, what you're selling, rather than the interface or the interface in which you're selling it on. And so you can use all of that additional cost savings that you'd normally be using towards hiring developers into things that actually grow your business. Things like ads, marketing, inventory, using the most common trends of influencer marketing and other types of things that I'm sure you can find a lot of resources and talks around. And so, focusing on design first, obviously, has been, and empowering you as a designer has been the way that we've built Webflow from the ground up. It's very natural for us to think about adding the capability to sell on top of that. And we wanted to make sure that you were completely in charge of every step of that entire customer journey so that you can really tell the story of who you are at each of those critical touch points. And so I think it's really important for just to stand out and continually be collecting information about your customers. And this platform, Webflow, helps you do that. So thank you.